What is going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jersey Joe Show, a place where we talk about a little bit of everything, but mostly hockey. And tonight, we're going to be talking about the Calgary Flames. So if you don't know, the Calgary Flames last season got knocked out in the first round. They even got swept by the Anaheim Ducks. It was the only sweep beyond Chicago, I think, in the playoffs, the entire playoffs. So they had a bit of retooling to do on the offseason, and really that's exactly what they did. So before I get into the specifics, I think going into next year that Calgary's going to be easily one of the top teams in the league. With their defensive additions, I think you're looking at a top 3 defense. I don't think they beat Nashville, but I do think that there really isn't much better than Calgary, at least in terms of the defense. Goalie situation, a little bit different. I'll get into that, but I think with the defense they have, it's good enough to really take them far enough. Not saying they're going to win the cup. I do think that there are better teams in the East. I do think Nashville is still better in the West, but they're still a great team, and I really think that defense is going to be something to talk about. I think it's going to be a big story going into next year. So let's take a look at what they did last season. So what exactly happened was Calgary was coming into last season pretty much the way they're coming in this next season. They were thought to be much better than they actually were, at least in the playoffs. They thought they were going to go further. They made some offseason additions. They made their defense a bit better. They brought in Brian Elliott. They brought in a few other pieces just to try and really fix the problems that they had. And ultimately, as I said, they got swept in the first round. So there was some extra stuff that they needed to do in the offseason. The question is, did they actually achieve that? Did they really create the team that they need to get further in the playoffs this year? So what they did was they brought in Mike Smith and Eddie Lack as their goaltending duo. Obviously, Mike Smith is going to be the starter. Eddie Lack's going to be the backup. And they had a really pretty heavy trade getting Travis Hamonic in for a lot of assets, and Travis Hamonic is now going to be a top 4 D-man for them. So you got Giordano, you got Brody, you got Hamilton, and now you got Hamonic, and you got Stone as your 5D. So those top 5D, they're going to be an incredibly impressive defensive core next year. I again don't think that they're going to be better than Nashville, but they're going to be second best, which is saying a lot. That's second best in a league of 31 teams, which means they're better than 29 other teams' defenses. And you have an above-average offense to really help even out that team. I do think their offense is even better than Nashville's. If not, it rivals it. So it's going to be one of those seasons where Calgary either comes out of the blue and really steals the Pacific Division and ends up getting into the second and third round of the playoffs, or we're going to see a repeat of the past 2 seasons where they really don't meet the expectations put on them. And the weakest link going into next season is going to be that of Mike Smith. And I say that because he's 35 years old. He was the backstay for the Arizona Coyotes for a number of years. And he's an interesting fella to really talk about. He's posted decent statistics, but as I said, he's getting up there in the years. He's never been an elite goaltender by any means, but he has this tendency to steal games. And you also have to say that in a way, he's a bit unproven. So if you're behind the Arizona Coyotes defense, the defense they used to have, not this new defense they just brought in this year, it's not going to be really an indicator of how well their goalie is. It's going to be more of an indicator of how poor their defense played in front of that goalie. And so when Mike Smith posts, a .914 save percentage, a 2.89 goals against average, is that really his top of the line play? Or is that really just a product of the team that's put in front of him? Can he drop those numbers down? I think that's his floor. I think what you saw in Arizona is the worst they can get from Mike Smith, and it's not great, but it's probably on par with what Brian Elliott did last year. So if anything, they really just kind of made a horizontal upgrade there. They didn't really gain much, and that's his floor. But his ceiling, because he does have this ability to steal games, to make crazy shutouts against 40, 50 shots sometimes, to really just be essentially a brick wall in net, I do think Calgary has this untapped potential in Mike Smith, and I'm really excited to see how he does. I know he just got, I think he got pulled in his first preseason game. I think he let in 4 goals on just a few number of shots, but again, he could have prospects playing in front of him. I didn't really watch the game. I don't know too much about that. That's just the story that I heard. And so going into next season, what Mike Smith are you going to see? Are you going to see the Mike Smith that pulls shutouts, that makes insane saves, that really steals the games? Or are you going to see the Mike Smith that falls flat in his ass and lets in 4 goals on 10 shots? Because Arizona has seen both sides of him far more than they want. That's why they bought in Ranta. That's why they really just traded him away, because they just felt like they needed a change of scenery. Not only for their team, but they wanted to give that to him as well. And so he now has the second best defense in the league in front of him. And it'll be really interesting to see how his stats change. I'm looking at him being probably a middle tier goaltender, probably 15th, 16th in the league in terms of save percentage and goals against. He's not going to be elite. He's not going to be a top 5 goalie in the league. There's no way. Even if he was, 10 years younger, he's never been in that echelon. He's never been that good of a goalie that you can say with a better defense he'll reach that height. But I also think he's better than he's shown in the past few years with Arizona. And that's why going into next season, I do think Calgary's a bit of a dark horse. I'm excited to see how they do next year. I think they're going to take the Pacific. Maybe not. I take that back. Because they're rising around the same time that Edmonton is. And so you have the battle for Alberta. And you got really 2 teams there that are becoming juggernauts. One offensively and one defensively. And so I think the matchups are going to play out really well next season. So I'm excited to see them face off against each other in the playoffs. Hopefully Anaheim doesn't knock one of them out again. And then we'll see next season how far Calgary can take it. I do think that they're on par with Edmonton. I think Edmonton's offense, as I said, is a tier above where Calgary is, but I think Calgary's defense is a tier or 2 above where Edmonton's is. So you're really going to see just these 2 very different structured teams going at it all season, and I'm so excited to see it. I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup, a fantastic couple of hockey games this season to watch, and we'll see how Calgary does. It's hard to say because Calgary has been under the radar, and I think they've underperformed. I don't think that a first-round exit is exactly where they should have been last season. I do think that they could have matched up with Anaheim a bit better. I think they could have brought it to at least 6-7 games. I'm not sure what happened in the sweep. I'm sure some Flames fans can tell me down below in the comments really what happened and explain it more. Maybe it was a coaching problem or something with injuries, because I know a lot of teams had a ton of different injuries, and that really changed the layout of the playoffs. But again, I'm an East Coaster, so I don't really know too much about the West Coast teams in terms of how they played last season. I didn't get to watch all of the games as I wanted to, and so I rely on the fans to really let me know what the situation was. And so, again, this is a bit of a shorter one, mainly because Calgary they've changed a bit, but the biggest ones were Travis Hamonic and Mike Smith, and I do think they're both upgrades in the best way possible. I would have wanted a younger goaltender with a bit more of a potential, but if you're going to have Brian Elliott, I think you much rather have Mike Smith. And it's unfortunate because I was a big Brian Elliott fan before he came to Calgary when he was in St. Louis. He had a fantastic playoff series against Chicago 2 years ago, and I thought maybe without worrying about Jake Allen, he was able to really come into himself and be that goalie he should have always been. But he's inconsistent, and we saw that in the playoffs this year. We saw that all season with Elliott. He's just not that great, and so I'm hoping Philadelphia kind of helps him get back to form and just be a bit of a better goalie. But either way, we're going to see Calgary in the playoffs next year. That's absolutely a given. I really would bet money that they're going to make it to the playoffs. I don't see them dropping out. I see them being above San Jose. I see them being above Arizona. They're going to be top 2 in the division. It's just between them and Edmonton right now, I think. And it depends on how Anaheim plays out, because right now they have a ton of injuries, so that may be setting them back a bit next year. So Calgary may have a chance to pounce on them and really get into that top slot in the division. But in terms of how far they make in the playoffs, I just think Nashville is too much of just this beast in the West that they have to get past, and I don't see it happening. At least not yet. Not unless Pekka Rinne falls off a cliff in terms of performance. Not unless their defense is injured, which it is right now. But by the playoffs, they should be back to full health. So Western Conference Finals is probably the limit I would put Calgary going to next year. But I do think they're going to be facing off against Edmonton in the Western Conference Finals for the next decade. They really have that good of a core, and they're all young, so it's definitely going to be a good number of years ahead for Calgary. So that's today's Calgary Flames, 31-31. I'm attempting to do one of these every single day. Has not been working out whatsoever. I think I'm on day 43, and I'm on team 16, 17, maybe even 15, so I got a lot of work ahead of me. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure you like and subscribe because you will be seeing a lot more of me now that the season started. And I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.